All right, so let's go ahead and get started. If at any time you can't hear us or anything, please let us know. You can unmute or put in the chat. But it looks like we have a good group here. We're excited. All right. So for today, we have our wellness education series. If you haven't met us yet, my name is Mariana.
My name is Tyler.
And we are the WellCats DIAs. It's been a pleasure. We've been here since last summer, and it's been really fun. We've done a couple of these education series, and each time we do it, it's on a different topic. And it's just an educational time for you to learn about different aspects of health, how they affect you at work and your personal life. And it's an open time for you to ask questions. So if anytime you have a question, feel free to unmute or put in the chat anytime or at the end, and we can answer those questions. Okay. A little bit about WellCats if you're not too familiar with the program. WellCats is the Texas State Employee Wellness Program, and it's free for all benefit eligible employees. And the services that are included are group exercise classes, whether you're in San Marcos or in Round Rock, we have different classes to offer. We also do classes on Teams where we do stretch breaks Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can tune into those. We do one-on-one nutrition consultations, health behavior change coaching, and these wellness education series. So we're glad that you're all here taking part of the benefits you get from WellCats. And here's our email if you want to send us an email and ask questions, and this QR code will take you to our webpage for WellCats. All right. And also on the call, we have Dr. Besner. She's also a big part of the WellCats program, and you are welcome to chime in anytime, Dr. Besner, when you have any comments as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, y'all. Hello, everyone.
And so today our topic is on stress and the effects it has on the aging process. I know this kind of sounds different. We talk about stress and how it affects our health, but it's actually interesting that stress can also affect the way we age. It can accelerate aging if it's too much stress. It can make us age in a way that's not the most healthy. We like to say that we're aging in a functional and healthy manner. And the way to do that is to really take note of what is stressing us out and how we're managing that stress. And so today we'll talk about what different coping mechanisms we have and how stress is a big part in aging well and what we can do to be more resilient in that process.
Alrighty, so the stress response. I'm going to give y'all an example. So at some point this week, I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience because I had a lot of things thrown on me on top of what else I had going on. And I got really, really overwhelmed. And I felt like, oh, I needed to run to the bathroom for so many different reasons. And then maybe I just needed to run to a corner for some other reasons. But the stress response is an adaptive mechanism that allows mobilizing all the resources of the body to fight a temporary threat. So, for instance, if we're thinking about our immune system, say it's going on the fall and we're coming right out of summer, and then we're maybe getting some pollen, thinking about a cold. So, in preparation, we drink the little vitamin packets, or we take more vitamins, or we make sure that we're drinking orange juice, things like that. The stress response that says, hey, my senses are a little bit elevated. I need to find something to then calm myself down, like maybe some deep breathing or maybe leaving the situation and going on a walk is a definition or an example of your stress response. So when these things become chronic, the stress associated with the adaptive mechanism becomes destructive. So in our last presentation, I believe we showed you an illustration about how stress can take somebody from going to work, and the next thing you know, they're in the hospital because they can't cope with what has been going on with their life. So we're going to talk about PTSD. We're going to talk about depression, anxiety, and in some cases, people choose to take medication or make lifestyle changes. So this quote, acute stress seems to enhance immune function and improve memory, but chronic stress has the opposite effect and can lead to disorders like depression, diabetes, and cognitive impairment in aging, was really, really good when we looked it up, because in some instances in my personal life and maybe family and friends, I've seen that happen where acute stress, oh, it makes me a go-getter. It makes me get things taken care of. And then when it turns into chronic and I'm stressed out every day, maybe my immune system is shot. So I'm getting COVID or I'm getting a cold. Um, or maybe I'm going to go see my doctor more than I actually need to because I'm not taking care of myself as far as self-care management. Okay, so the link between chronic stress and accelerated aging. Um, have you ever heard the phrase or the term, you look like you aging a little bit more today? Um, so when you have a lot on your plate and you're not prioritizing your self-care time or saying, hey, I'm setting a boundary, I'm working out for 15 minutes today. I'm not going to work through my break. Or my family really wants me to come see them, but it's a 5-hour drive and I've had a long week. Me setting that boundary and saying, hey, I'm probably not going to come see you this week just because I have so much going on. And even though I'm free, I need this time to myself. So, numerous studies have shown a link between chronic psychological stress and mental disorders such as major depressive disorder and PTSD, as well as accelerated aging. So, this psychological stress influences the multiple biological aging pathways. Have you ever seen anybody that maybe 20, 30, maybe even 40? Not me, because I was born with gray hairs, but that may have more gray hairs than you think that they should, or a little bit more wrinkles in the face than you think that they should. And it's not because they have any particular disorder or illness, but it's just because life has gotten to them so difficultly or so hard, and they haven't been able to grasp and manage it. That's where accelerated aging comes in. So those stress hormones that are supposed to mediate our stress levels, like our sympathetic and parasympathetic system, sympathetic fight or flight. I'm running, I'm shooting, I'm on the go. I'm not paying attention to anybody while I'm driving. And then parasympathetic says, okay, let me relax. It's a light. I'm going to make it. And even if I'm late, I'm still going to be there. Um, the link between this chronic stress and accelerated aging is really important. And as we talk about it more in this presentation, I hope that it gives you a little bit of insight on trying to manage your stress and make it more acute so that we're a go-getter and we're managing rather than chronic and we're saying, hey, I can't take it and I'm in the hospital and this is where I'm at now.
And just a fun fact or something that I discovered as we were preparing for this presentation, I wanted to see what it meant by biological aging pathways. And even when a scientist takes your DNA, they can see how much more accelerated your aging is because with more stress, I don't know if all of you are familiar with, but the telomeres and the strands of your DNA actually shorten with aging. And when you have when you have chronic stress, that shortening of your telomeres actually accelerates. And so even if you're in your 30s, but if you have higher stress, sometimes people look older, but it's also that their DNA and the telomeres are shrinking. And it's because of that the response of the body to that chronic stress that Tyler was talking about. And that's not to say, oh no, I've been stressed at work for years and I'm probably aging a lot faster. It's all done for. They've also found that there are ways to cope with that stress and to do different changes in your lifestyle to make your aging slow down and maybe take back some of those responses that your body has been going through for so long and help those DNA strands to not shrink so fast and really cope in a way that's better. And you can even get years back. And so it really is a great thing to be able to take part in different healthy habits, not only for your mental health, but for your physical health and for longevity in the long run. So that's just something I thought was very interesting.
All right. In these next couple of slides, we're going to talk about the 4 C's: control, commitment, challenge, and then confidence. The brain challenges, or the brain is challenged and it changes, and that appears to be reversible. We learned about neuroplasticity in classes, and When you're younger, it's much easier to make those alterations. But with the studies that we did discover, the negative changes that occur to our body systems and brain with chronic levels of stress. However, these changes are reversible not only with the pharmaceutical. Our computer is not happy with us today. Agents, but also lifestyle changes like exercise, diet, and social support. So, for instance, there are some times when I have test anxiety, and me and my physician discussed a medication that I could take to help. But then she also said we can make lifestyle changes, and instead of maybe second guessing myself and going back through my exam, taking a second and really reading the question and answering it to the best of my ability and letting God do the rest. So, that being said, what can you do now to reduce the burden of stress on your health? We're going to talk about that in the next slide.
Yes. And before we go on to those, I want everyone to just think about maybe what are the top 2 or top 3 things that you feel are causing the most stress in your life, and if those things are causing a burden to your health. And as we go through these next steps, maybe think of ways that those can help you manage that stress in a new way that you haven't tried before. And at the end, we can ask for some examples if some of you are willing to share, and we can help you apply these principles just to help us be more resilient. So the first part of resiliency, or the 4 C's, is control. And another way is to say empowerment. How do you take control of the situation so that the stress doesn't take control of you, right? And so you can develop control of how you respond to challenges, how you create solutions to overcome difficulties that come in your way, whatever, if that's in your personal life or at work. And there's different coping strategies that you can do to help with that, whether that's for your emotions, how you control your emotions, how you react to a situation, or coping skills on how to create solutions. Those are the more problem-focused coping skills. And so we have a little picture here where you can see, to help you manage more of those emotions, you can do exercise, get that more dopamine, and really take those things off of your mind and just feel better afterwards. You can take a bath. That's a time where you're just doing some self-care. You're just, I don't know, anytime I'm kind of stressed out, if I take a shower or a bath afterwards, I just feel refreshed and ready to go back to the task, and that helps me a lot as well. I've seen that. It's funny, this morning I talked to some friends about giving yourself a pep talk in the mirror. I have tried it before and I thought it was kind of helpful, but other people said it was just weird to them to be talking to themselves positively in the mirror. So maybe that's not easy for everyone, but with practice, it does get easier. And the mind is so powerful that if you're telling yourself positive things, if you're telling yourself you can do this, that mindset and mind frame from negative to positive is very helpful in managing stress. If in your mind you keep telling yourself everything's derailing, I can't do this is too much, but then you shift that mindset to say, okay, this is a lot, but I've done this before. They are entrusting me with this responsibility because they know I can do it. I have people around me supporting me. I have all of these strengths. I can do this. You can manage that responsibility way better than if you're just being so negative. So if it's hard for you to look in the mirror and talk to yourself, that's okay, but try to have more positive thoughts in your mind. And that's a form of meditation, right? Where you are trying to have a more positive mindset. Or if there's too many things going on in your mind, just meditating and clearing your mind so that you can process those thoughts that come in a lot easier. And those are for coping your emotions. Another form of doing this is finding solutions. So maybe you need to work on managing your time if that's what's stressing you out, if you're not meeting your deadlines. If you don't know what to do, ask for support. You can reach out to your boss, you can reach out to your coworkers, family members, friends, and just talk about what's going on. Maybe they don't know how to help, but just having someone to talk to about it, you might find the solution yourself. Tyler mentioned this earlier, establishing healthy boundaries. It's good to let people know, hey, I'm busy right now. I don't think I can go and visit you this weekend. I'm very busy, but I am letting you know that I want to talk to you. I want to meet with you in the future when I don't have so much on my plate. Or setting a boundary with your boss saying, hey, I have these things that I'm working on and I want to do them well. I can't do this right now that you're asking me to do, but when I finish these deadlines, I'd be more than happy to take on this other project, right? So not taking on more on your plate than you can manage. And doing a to-do list just to get through all those things and not let something slide by and then get stressed out by that. So there's lots of different things you can do to cope, whether that's how you feel about the situation or how you handle the situation, right? It's going to help you improve your ability to recover whenever you feel too stressed and be able to take on these challenges well. Feel empowered to do it.
Before we go on to the next slide, I want to provide two examples or two additional examples. I have a whiteboard on my refrigerator, and I intended on taking a picture to show y'all, but I figured I'd just tell you. So I wrote out a couple of my favorite Bible scriptures and/or ones that I knew were important in this time in my life. And then I also wrote to focus on myself.
Okay, there we are.
And then I also just added to set boundaries on my whiteboard. So every time I go to the refrigerator or every time I go to the kitchen, it's something that I read. I also put on there, I am not alone. So even if I'm not with a person physically, I know that my belief and my religion, so I love Jesus, and he's been there for me through thick and thin. So even when I'm sitting by myself, I know I'm not alone. So I'm going through life, but I'm never by myself. Also, something that I did with my younger family members, we wrote on sticky notes and we kind of put them all over a mirror. So the first thing was write everything negative. Write what you don't like about yourself. Write about what happened in your week that you didn't feel was the best. Write about something in your relationships, whether it's family or friends, that you want to work on. So we took a couple of minutes and did that. And then the next one we did was write positively. Write about all the things you do like about yourself. Write about the things that you're grateful for. And it sounds maybe a little silly, but it was really helpful. So every time we walked past the mirror, we would see him and say, hey, I know I said I needed to set a boundary with my mom. I needed to say no sometime instead of saying yes. Okay, today is the day. She called me and she said, I need you to go this, this, and this, and do this, this, and this. I got to text her and let her know. I have to call her and say, hey, mom, I really want to do these things for you, but today I can't. I can't do it. And I needed to set that boundary. Or something that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the family support that I have. Let me tell them. I haven't said thank you in a long time. Let me call my mom or my dad or my brother and say, hey, thank you so much for being on the other end of the call at night when I'm stressed out and I'm not able to get through it. So those emotional or problem-focused coping skills are really important. And those two examples have helped me a lot in my life. So if that resonates with anybody, please use it.
Thank you, Tyler. Okay, the second C in being more resilient is commitment. In other words, being persistent. And in this slide, we tied it to setting goals and staying with those goals even when we don't meet them in the time frame that we wanted to, or if they're not going in the way we had planned. So being resilient means that even though you have those barriers come up that you weren't ready for or a challenge, you still stick to that goal and you don't give up. And it's important to set SMART goals, right? Goals that are specific, that are measurable, that are actually attainable, and that you have a time frame to meet them. And like I said, if you don't meet that time frame, then you can adjust your goal. Say, okay, I'm going to work on this for another 6 weeks and see if anything changes, and really seeing those small wins and not letting them just slide by, saying, okay, I didn't meet 100% of what I wanted to, but I did better than last time. I got maybe 50% better in what I wanted to achieve. And I like this picture because it shows that it takes a lot of effort to get to that, reach the goal, right? You have to push a little more on the gas to get there. You start with your car in park. You got to take it off of park and go into drive when you set that goal. As you make the plan, you get a little bit faster to your end point. You start working on it, you get a little bit faster, but if you're persistent and you commit, even though there's obstacles in the road, you're going to get faster and faster until you reach that goal. You're going to get to your destination. And so even though you don't succeed, try again, right? That's the saying. I don't know if any of you have heard of the challenge of 75 hard. It's called hard for a reason. It's not easy. That one, my friends have tried to get me to do it with them so many times. The hard part with that one is if you miss one day, you have to start over from the beginning. And so that has always made me refrain from doing it because I said, oh, if I miss one day, I don't want to start over, right?
Mm-mm.
That's too hard. There's like 5 different things you have to do, 2 workouts a day, you have to stick to a diet, you have to write in a journal.
45 minutes, 2 45-minute workouts.
It's a lot, right? But then my other friend told me about another challenge she was doing called 75 soft. I was like, what is that? And it's basically the same thing, but you're giving yourself a little bit of room for error. It's a little bit, I want to say easier, but I like the idea that you make the challenge for yourself because you know yourself and you know what areas you have more difficulty in. And if I miss a day, that's okay. I just measure what I did do in that day. Maybe I didn't get 2 workouts in, I only did 1. And maybe I didn't journal that day, but I read my book that I was supposed to read. Okay, I still did something that day. The next day, I'm going to try to do better and make sure the things I didn't do, I do those first. And so even though, sorry, my Wi-Fi keeps coming in and out. But even though maybe my foot came off of that gas a little bit and I slowed down, I can still press the gas the next day and go a little bit closer to my goal, right? And so the main take-home message here is don't put your foot all the way on the brake and just stop because the light became red, right? Just wait for that obstacle to maybe seem not as big. Look for those coping mechanisms that we talked about. Think about what you're feeling in that moment, why it feels so hard. What are some solutions to that problem? And once you figure that out, you can press the gas again and you can go a little bit further. So think about those things that we said in the beginning of what's stressing you out and what you can do to not let it be so big and still be able to achieve the goals that you have at this moment.
Mariana, can I add something about goals?
Of
Yeah.
course.
So I think the key to being persistent and the key to commitment is not focusing on the outcome of the goal, which is what everyone focuses on, right? So you set a goal to do something and then you don't do it. So you automatically say, I'm a failure, I'm bad, or I made the goal too hard or whatever. We always jump to the negative. The real key to using goal setting to sustaining our persistence and our commitment is to focus on the experience, right? So think of it as an experiment. So I'm going to set this goal and see what happens, see if it works for me. And if at the end of the period of time or at the end of whatever related to the goal, you can ask yourself, what did I learn from this goal? Well, maybe I learned that the goal was too hard. Maybe I learned that I thought doing it this way was a good idea, but it's really not. So what I learned was I can't do it that way, but what way could I do it that it would work for me to continue to push forward to get where I want to go? So think about the experience of the goal, not the outcome of the goal. That is so important. It changes our brain to allow us to problem solve, which we talked about earlier, number 1. And number 2, it makes us feel more positive, like I did get something out of this. And from that positive mindset, we're much more able to direct our lives than if we have a negative beating ourselves up mindset.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
It's all
Yeah.
about the journey. So speaking on challenges, that is the 3rd C of the formula. And the main challenge here is to challenge yourself. Challenge your mindset. We talked about going from that negative self-talk to more positive self-talk and seeing more of the things that you're grateful for, the wins that you have throughout the day, instead of just thinking about all the things that went wrong. And it says here that resilient people are able to look at negative situations realistically, but in a way that doesn't center on blame or brooding over what cannot be changed. Instead of viewing adversity as insurmountable, like this mountain here, reframe thoughts to look for small ways to tackle the problem and make changes that will help. So I think a lot of times when something went wrong in the day, it's easy to just look at that negative side of it instead of seeing the good things that came out of it. And when we try to shift away from that, we can see maybe ways to solve the problem that we wouldn't have been able to see before. And so it's difficult to do. It takes a lot of trial and error and practice to change that mindset. And it takes a lot of time, maybe afterwards from that failure, to look at the situation as a whole and see what you could have done differently. But then in the future, you know what to do differently, and it can ease some of that stress, saying, okay, I learned from that experience, and now I can do better. And I like the second part of it as well, of challenging maybe other people and setting boundaries like we talked about. And so not taking on more than we can handle, letting people know this is what I need and this is what you can do to help me. And maybe that will help them feel comfortable with saying, okay, this is what maybe they need and how you can help them. So it goes both ways, right? As you challenge your own mindset, people will notice that and they will be able to help you along the way. So there's a way to ask for help, and this is a great way to do it. Letting people know what helps you and what doesn't help you, what causes more stress on you. And that way you can get people on your side that you know will help you. Yeah, that's all I have for that one. Do you have anything else?
I have an example for challenges. We went to a gym for individuals who have movement disorders, particularly Parkinson's disease or a person that's recovering from a stroke. We also met a gentleman that had cortical-basilar syndrome. One of the individuals, he spoke about him and his friend challenging one another because they needed to be physically active all the time. Otherwise, he felt like they would be so sedentary and they wouldn't do anything ever. He said, I like to poke her and she'd poke me, not literally, but figuratively. So he said, you know what? I can do 10 push-ups. Can you do 15 push-ups? And she's like, if I do 15, you have to do 22, you know? So that it's a silly but fun example, but it can be similar to workplace. Let's say, Mariana, I bet you I can type this paper, this 500 essay in 10 minutes. Can you?
Probably not, but I'll try.
But having those fun little quirky moments with your coworkers or maybe friends or family can really challenge your mindset and say, hey, maybe I can do a little more than I thought I could. So that would be my example for challenging.
Sure, thanks.
Confidence, self-belief. Ooh, this is a great one. We actually kind of talked about it in our previous class this morning. We talked about leadership and where you fall with self-belief, motivation, self-discipline, those intrinsic motivational skills everybody doesn't use and or have. So less related to sports. Intrinsically, I want to play this sport because I love it and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Extrinsically, well, my mom says she'll give me ice cream if I go play this game. So relating that to confidence based, having positive self-talk. We also discussed that for the most part, we have negative self-talk on the inside. But what type of negative self-talk is it? Is it toxic, or is it the little bit of negative self-talk that pushes you, that says, hey, I know you're better than this. You're not where you need to be right now, but you can do this. Or is it the negative self-talk? I failed and I'm not going to make it and I'll never reach where I felt I would. That's toxic. It's telling yourself you will never be worth what you thought you were. And on the flip side, I'm not where I need to be, but I have the resources, or I see where I can get some resources to get where I need to be. Manifesting. Oh, manifesting is really important to me. We did a personal strategic plan and it was actually due today. One of the things that I manifested was building a better relationship with God. Not only going to church, not only going to Bible study, but saying, hey, I'm taking out time and I'm doing Bible study twice a month. I'm going to read a scripture and then I'm talking to my friend about it. And then we're going to talk about the differences or the similarities that we have with the scripture that we read and what we're getting from it. The mind is a powerful thing. So if we're taking it and putting it into workplace, if you said, hey, today's a Monday and Mondays are always horrible, I'm just going to have a bad day. Ultimately, you probably will have a bad day because you manifested a bad day. Now, mind you, I know Mondays, they be Mondaying, but manifesting and saying, hey, I know that this is what it is, but I'm going to make the best of it is a completely different thing. So make sure that you're going into whatever challenges that you have with the mindset of this may be difficult, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to do what I need to do to see it through. Keeping problems in perspective. My mom always told me, yes, I see your problem, but I also want you to think somebody has it 10 times worse. And it's not so much as belittling what you have going on, but putting it into perspective. Like, oh, I broke a nail, I'm bleeding. Okay. Like I'm gonna make it through. It hurts right now. It really does. But somebody just got into a car accident and is now in the hospital. Is your broken nail more significant than this person in the hospital? Are we hooping and hollering about something that is
Still there? There we go.
okay? Yeah, so are we hooping and hollering about something that is kind of small and something that we can manage? Or are we hooping and hollering about something that is really, really drastic that we need some help? So looking at it from that perspective, keeping whatever problems or issues that you have, not so much in a good perspective, just in a perspective period, and saying, hey, is this really as large as I think it is? Or is there some way that I can manage it without exacerbating what is actually going on?
Thank you. And so we have this video we wanted to play. It just is a little info illustration of how different people manage their stress in a positive way versus a negative way. So hopefully you guys can hear it.
I'm not hearing anything, Mariana. I don't know if is there audio associated?
There should be. Let me see if I stop sharing. 1 second. Includes. Alright, sorry about that. It should work now.
Stress is usually seen as something
Yep.
we need to avoid.
Thank-
This is not true. We need stress, and we need our body's stress hormone cortisol to rise and fall throughout the day. Stress helps us wake up in the morning, helps us focus, learn, and remember new things. It's when people experience too much stress and start having difficulties coping that stress becomes a problem. High levels of stress can disrupt the natural changes in the body's stress response system and start to affect our physical and mental health. Over time, accumulated stress can result in false FFF response activations. When trying to measure our stress tolerance, the bucket analogy can be helpful. Our stress tolerance, or the size of our bucket, is a product of our genes, personality, and life experiences, and its size varies from person to person. The water in this analogy is the combination of all the stress in your life. We use the coping strategies we have available to keep our bucket from overflowing. They are like taps that allow water to drain from the bucket. Stress can include training, work, school, relationships, finances, moving, changing jobs, or the loss of a loved one. Both positive and negative experiences will affect the water level. A big bucket can hold more water or stress before it overflows. With a smaller bucket, less water is required for the water or stress level to become critical. While you can't change the size of your bucket, you can make life adjustments to reduce water coming in. You can also learn new coping strategies and stress management techniques to allow water to drain out. Mind tools, exercise, quality sleep, relaxation, and sharing your feelings with friends are some examples of effective water taps. Staying up late, sleeping in, drugs, inactivity, procrastination, suppressing or ignoring problems are examples of unhelpful coping strategies or false taps. They might give temporary relief, but actually result in water flowing back into your bucket.
All right, so that was a nice little video.
Yeah, it really was. We want to hit on resilience before we talk about the final tips and takeaway. So, a lot of people have the trait or a characteristic of resilience, but it can also be strengthened. And for those that don't have it, it's not a negative thing and it's something that you can acquire. Um, Looking at situations in a more positive light or getting support, whether that be a counselor, family member, or a friend, or even a coworker, is really important. And then also looking at the things that you can control. So life be lifing, you know. Um, there are some parts of life that you can control and say, hey, this is going to be better for me, or this is just going to go the way that it's going to go. Make sure that you're not trying to take on everything in the world, because none of us are Superwoman or Superman as much as we'd like to be. But good stress management skills can foster great resilience. So making sure that you're being keen on what you can control and what you want your life to be is really, really imperative. And I'd advise everybody to take a second, maybe today or tomorrow, whenever you have time, and think about the things that you can control. Maybe make a list, journal it out, and see where you can make those necessary changes if possible.
Yes, and I like what the video said, along with what Tyler said, that everyone experiences stress and different levels of stress. And even though our buckets are all different based on our genetics or what we've experienced through life, the way that we can cope and relieve some of that stress is we need to find ways. Maybe the way I handle stress is different from the way Tyler handles stress, but the concepts are the same. If we're doing things that help us take some of that water out of our bucket, like it says here in the list, maybe I need more quality sleep so I don't feel so stressed out by the things that are in my bucket. Maybe I need to just learn to breathe better. Maybe I need to learn to take more control and feel empowered with my way I manage my emotions. Maybe I need to be more committed to the goals that I'm setting for myself. Maybe I need to challenge my mindset. So all the things that we've talked about today are ways that you can be more resilient. Like it says here, people who are resilient, they don't experience less stress. They're still going to have things in life and at work that are going to give them that stress, but they're going to have those things in their toolbox to help them manage it, to be able to open that tap on their bucket and release some of that water that's in there. So it doesn't matter what it matters what you've experienced, but those things can help you become more resilient, especially if you decide now what you're going to do to strengthen some of those areas that you think you need to work on. So maybe throughout this presentation, you thought of something that you said, I need to be better at recognizing those emotions that I have and being able to talk about them with someone. Or maybe I need to stick more with my goals. And like Dr. Besner said, realize the things that I'm growing from as I'm trying to achieve those goals and not just say, oh, I did this or I didn't do this. And so there are different things you can do in this list and also in the 4 C's that can help you not only become more resilient, but not let stress affect your body and your health so much so that you can, the main thing of this presentation, right, to age well and to cope well with those stressful events. So I don't know if there's anyone that wants to share maybe something that is very stressful for them now or that has been stressful for them in the past couple months that they would like help of how to apply these concepts to them. Feel free to put in the chat or unmute. And if no one is stressed, that's great.
We can also take questions about the information as well.
Are there any other closing remarks you have, Dr. Besner?
I don't. I think y'all gave a couple of examples we went along, so if nobody has one that we could work through, then, and no questions, yeah.
All right, if you have any questions anytime, these are our emails. Feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. If you have an example you didn't want to share, well, there's something in the chat. Just a thank you. All right. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. We're glad you were able to chime in during your lunchtime and have a great rest of your day. Yes, I can put the link. I'll stop sharing. I like that video. It's a good way to talk about it. I'll put the link in the chat, and everyone else, thank you so much for joining us today. It take me a second to find it, but
Do we
Once-
share this? Do we share the slides?
I think so. But I can put the link in the Teams chat.
Yeah,
for this
yeah, why don't we
presentation.
just do that?
Yeah, I'll do that. But thank you for asking. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.